The ship drifted through silence, an ancient warship turned ghost. Valkyries then floated among the bones of a dead fleet, its hull scarred, its engines whispering like an exhausted soldier. Outside, the debris field shimmered in the pale glow of a dying sun. Fragments of ships, human and alien alike, hung frozen in time, their metal carcasses telling the story of the last great stand at Seoul. Commander Reyna Cole stood on the bridge, boots planted on the trembling deck, eyes fixed on a holographic display. A web of wreckage surrounded them. Her reflection flickered in the cracked glass. Dark hair tied back, face carved by fatigue, the faint trace of scar running down her jaw. Her expression was unreadable, but her silence carried weight. "Anything worth salvaging?" she asked without turning. From under a half-dead console, Tarek, the ship's engineer, muttered through the static of his headset. "Scrap, Commander. Maybe a few fuel cells. If we're lucky, a working coffee dispenser." Reyna exhaled through her nose. "You always did dream big." He grinned, smudged with oil and grit. "Keeps me sane, ma'am." The bridge lights flickered. Power reserves were down to 30%. The ship's AI, Juno, spoke with her calm synthetic tone. "Commander, structural integrity is holding, but we should vacate the debris field within 3 hours. Radiation levels are rising." "Not yet," Reyna replied. "There's something out here." Her gaze locked on a faint signal pulsing near the edge of the wreckage, an old Terran distress beacon. Human code, forgotten but still crying out. She walked to the console, fingers flying across the screen. "Tarek, prep the drone bay. I'm sending out a scout." Tarek frowned. "That's Dominion territory. Could be a trap." Reyna's voice hardened. "Could be the last message from someone who refused to die quiet. Launch it." The drone slipped into the void, its lights cutting through the darkness. Reyna watched the feed as it wove through shattered hulls, frozen bodies, and the remains of Earth's once mighty defense fleet. Then it stopped at a twisted black box, floating amid the ruins of a human command ship. The beacon's pulse was fading. "Bring it aboard," she said. Minutes later, the airlock hissed open, releasing a faint metallic scent. Reyna stood beside Tarek as he pried open the casing. Inside lay a shattered recorder. He powered it up, and a flicker of static became a voice, a man's voice, low and urgent. "This is Admiral Reeves. If anyone hears this, the Dominion's building something. A weapon, not for war, something worse. They call it the neural pulse. It targets emotion, empathy, rage, fear, all the things that make us human. They're going to erase us from the inside out." The message crackled, then died. Silence filled the bridge. Tarek swallowed. "Erase emotion? What kind of monsters?" Reyna cut in. "No monsters. Just cowards terrified of what they can't control." Her eyes drifted toward the viewport. Beyond the stars, the Dominion's empire stretched endless and cold, a machine built on obedience. Humanity had always been the splinter in its gears. "Juno," Reyna said quietly, "confirm the source of that transmission. Coordinates trace to Sector 19K, deep within Dominion space." The AI replied. "High risk, probability of survival." "Don't finish that," Reyna said. "Plot a course." Tarek stared at her, disbelief on his face. "You're serious? That's suicide. The fleet's gone. There's nothing left to fight with." She turned to him. "There's us. That's enough." He shook his head. "Sometimes I think you enjoy walking into fire." She smirked faintly. "Fire's the only thing that reminds me I'm alive." Before Tarek could respond, the ship shuddered. Proximity alarms blared. Juno's voice rose above the noise. "Unidentified vessel approaching. Dominion scout craft. They've detected us." "Evasive maneuvers," Reyna ordered. "Power the railguns." The Valkyries then jolted into motion, weaving through wreckage as plasma bursts tore past. The Dominion ship was sleek, silver, alive with red energy veins, a predator among corpses. Tarek manned the weapons. "Guns hot." Reyna gripped the command rail. "Juno, lock target, center mass." "Locked." "Fire." The railguns roared, metal slugs slicing through the void. The first volley missed. The second didn't. The Dominion craft exploded into a spiral of fire and silence. The ship steadied. The stars returned. Tark leaned back, sweat on his brow. That was close. Rayna's voice was calm again. Not close enough to stop us. Juno dimmed the red lights. Enemy destroyed. Damage minimal. Rayna sat in the command chair, eyes half closed. For a moment, the bridge was quiet except for the hum of the engines. Set the course, she said softly. We're going to find that weapon. Tarek hesitated. You think we can stop it? Rayna looked up at him. No, I think we can remind them what it means to fear humans again. He exhaled, half in awe, half in resignation. You really don't give a damn, do you? Her lips curved. No, Tarek, I give a damn about everything. That's why they'll never understand us. Later that night, she sat alone in her quarters, the black box resting on her desk. The recording looped in silence, the Admiral's last words lingering like ghosts. She picked up a small silver pendant, a fragment of earth soil sealed in side glass. She turned it over in her palm. A faint reflection of her younger self stared back from the metal surface. Bright-eyed, hopeful, that woman was gone, but her shadow remained. Neural pulse, she whispered. You think you can kill emotion? Good luck finding it first. The intercom chimed. Juno's voice filled the quiet. Commander, Tarek reports the engine's ready for long-range travel. Take us out, she said. Acknowledged. Destination, Sector 19K. Rayna stood, fastening her jacket. The hum of the ship deepened as the engines charged. Outside, the debris field began to fade, replaced by the deep, endless dark of open space. As the Valkyries then accelerated toward the unknown, Rayna glanced once more at the fading stars of Sol, the graveyard of her people. Goodbye, old home, she murmured. We're not done yet. The stars stretched into streaks of light. The ship vanished into hyperspace. Hyperspace painted the bridge in flickering blue light as Valkyries tore through the void. The hull groaned under pressure, but Rayna Cole barely noticed. She stood before the viewport, eyes fixed on the swirling abyss. Her thoughts anchored somewhere far behind. Sleep had become a rumor. Guilt lived where rest should have been. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the colony burning, the one she'd ordered destroyed to save her crew. Her hand still remembered the feel of that launch switch, the hollow weight of command. Tark entered, carrying 2 steaming metal cups. Synthetic coffee, he said, handing one to her. Smells like burnt engine grease. Tastes worse. Rayna took it anyway. Perfect. He leaned against the console, watching her. You ever wonder what's left of Earth now? The way people talk about it, you'd think it was heaven. It wasn't heaven, she said quietly. Just home. That's why it mattered. For a moment, the hum of the engines filled the silence between them. Juno's voice interrupted. Commander, we are approaching the Orion Rift. Dominion patrols are dense in this sector. Recommend stealth mode. Do it, Rayna ordered. Keep our heat signature buried. Tark, recalibrate the shielding. We don't get a second chance if they spot us. Aye. The ship dimmed as systems powered down. Only emergency lights remained, bathing the crew in cold crimson. Beyond the viewport, the rift spread like a wound in space. Massive clouds of violet gas pierced by lightning and debris. Tark whispered, Looks like God spilled his paint. Rayna didn't answer. Her attention locked on the readings streaming across the screen. Buried inside the rift was a signal. Faint, rhythmic, mechanical. Is that what I think it is? She asked. Juno replied, Affirmative. It's a Dominion relay station. Signal matches the neural pulse transmission code. Distance, 0.8 light hours. Rayna straightened. Plot an approach vector. Minimum emissions. I want eyes on it before sunrise cycle. Confirmed, said Juno. The journey through the rift was silent. The nebula's gases distorted sensors and light, making the ship feel like it was sailing through fog. Every vibration, every hum, felt magnified. The crew worked in whispers. Tark broke the tension. Commander, you ever think maybe we're cursed? Wherever we go, death tags along. She shot him a sideways glance. We're not cursed. We're contagious. Hope spreads faster than fear. He smiled faintly. "You've got strange medicine. Better than Dominion poison," she said. Hours later, the relay station appeared on screen, a black monolith anchored to drifting rock, surrounded by the corpses of smaller satellites. Dominion architecture always looked the same, beautiful in a cold, mathematical way. No color, no warmth, just precision and control. Reyna leaned forward. "Magnify." The display zoomed in. Dominion insignia glowed across its hull. The structure pulsed with energy, sending data deeper into their network. Juno analyzed the output. Encrypted signals detected. Estimated function. Long-range neurotransmission testing. "So, this is where it starts," Reyna murmured. "The weapon's backbone." Tarek frowned. "We're one ship, Reyna. That thing's crawling with guards." "We're not staying long," she said. "We need proof, data logs, blueprints, anything we can steal. We find that, we move." "Understood." Reyna stood, her voice sharp. "Prep infiltration team. Silent entry. If we're spotted, we burn the evidence before they do." They docked in darkness, clamping the Valkyrie's end to the underside of the station. The crew wore black envirosuits, their helmets reflecting faint red lights. Reyna led them through the airlock, pulse steady, mind sharp. The Dominion corridor beyond was sterile and silent. Walls of polished steel hummed with distant energy. Even the air felt artificial. Tarek muttered, "Feels like walking inside a machine." "Focus," Reyna whispered. "We're ghosts here." They moved through the labyrinth, guided by Juno's remote feed. After 20 minutes, they reached a data core chamber, massive cylinders pulsing with blue light, each one storing terabytes of Dominion secrets. Reyna crouched by a terminal, her gloved fingers moving fast, copying data. "Keep watch." Tarek covered the entrance, weapon ready. Every minute stretched like a year. 30% complete. Juno's voice whispered through the calm warning. Energy fluctuations detected nearby. Reyna froze. Define nearby. Within 60 meters. Multiple life signs approaching. Tarek cursed. "We're made." Reyna pulled the drive from the port. "Forget the rest. We've got enough." As they turned to retreat, the far door hissed open. Dominion soldiers stepped through, tall, insectoid figures with glowing rifles. The corridor erupted in gunfire. "Move!" Reyna shouted. They sprinted through narrow halls, plasma bolts searing the walls. Tarek fired back, covering her flank. The data drive clattered against her chest plate. Alarms blared through the station, metallic voices chanting in the Dominion's cold tongue. They reached the docking corridor. Juno's voice was calm despite the chaos. Airlock engaged. Prepare for decompression. "Do it!" Reyna yelled. The door sealed just as an explosion ripped through the upper deck. Pressure dropped. The vacuum screamed. Reyna slammed the override, launching them back into the Valkyrie's end. The moment they were aboard, she barked, "Undock and burn!" Tarek hit the thrusters. The ship tore away as the relay exploded behind them, scattering fire and fragments into the nebula. On the bridge, everyone breathed hard. Smoke filled the air. Reyna unsealed her helmet and tossed it aside. Tarek stared at the screen. "Well, that went to hell quick." "Still breathing," Reyna replied. "That counts as a win." Juno spoke. "Commander, data retrieval successful. Files encrypted, but I can begin decryption." "Do it." "Prioritize anything tagged with neural pulse protocols." Reyna dropped into the command chair, chest rising and falling as adrenaline faded. The weight of what they'd found began to settle. Tarek leaned against the console. "You know what this means, right? If that thing does what the Admiral said, it's not just genocide. It's evolution by murder. They're rewriting life itself." Reyna nodded. "Then we rewrite the ending." Hours later, Juno's analysis appeared as glowing script across the display. "Commander, decrypted segment found. Project designation, Purge Alpha. Neural weapon tuned to emotional frequencies specific to human neurochemistry. Activation window, 72 hours. Reyna's knuckles whitened around the edge of the console. 72 hours. That's when they launch it. Tarek said, "They're not waiting." Reyna's voice dropped low. "Set course for Dominion Prime. If we're going to stop this, we hit the heart." Juno hesitated. Dominion Prime is the most fortified world in the known systems. Probability of success. "Stop right there," Reyna interrupted. "We've been running numbers our whole lives, Juno. Humanity was never supposed to survive any of this. Yet here we are." Tarek gave a tired grin. "You know, sometimes I think the universe made us just to piss it off." Reyna smirked. "Then let's not disappoint it." The engines roared to life. The nebula fell away behind them, replaced by the cold clarity of deep space. For the first time in weeks, the stars seemed sharper, closer, like they were watching. The Dominion Prime system burned with artificial perfection. From orbit, the planet shimmered like polished glass, rings of cities stacked in tiers of silver, light pulsing in geometric rhythm. Every building, every drone, every citizen moved under a single thought: obedience. Reyna Cole watched it from the Valkyrie's end as the ship drifted beyond sensor range. Dominion Prime was not just a world. It was an idea. Cold, flawless, merciless. The complete opposite of everything human. "Place looks like a museum," Tarek muttered. "Clean, empty, and full of dead things." Reyna adjusted her gloves, eyes never leaving the holographic map. "A museum that kills anything that doesn't fit its design. Our job is to mess up the exhibit." Juno's voice came through the comms. "Commander, I've completed the decryption. The neural pulse core is beneath their central citadel, protected by quantum shields. Penetration is statistically impossible." Tarek rolled his eyes. "Good thing we don't do statistics." Reyna smirked. "Plot a stealth trajectory. I want to hit their blind spot here." She pointed to the dark band beneath the planet's energy ring. "A maintenance port. Unmonitored, low traffic. We slip in, we find the weapon, we end this." "Understood," said Juno. The engines purred, soft and deliberate, as the Valkyrie's end vanished into the black. Hours later, the ship breached the upper atmosphere. The storm below churned with white lightning, casting brief glimpses of the Dominion's capital. Towers like obsidian spears, cutting through clouds. Tarek muttered under his breath. "If hell had architects, they'd live here." "Focus," Reyna said. "We'll dock in 5. The hull shuddered as magnetic clamps locked onto the maintenance port. Reyna strapped on her sidearm and sealed her helmet. "You're on standby, Juno. If we don't return in 4 hours, burn everything that moves." "Affirmative," Juno replied. The airlock opened, releasing a gust of sterile, recycled air. Reyna and Tarek stepped into a narrow corridor lit by pale blue strips. The silence felt alive, as though the walls themselves were listening. "Stay close," Reyna whispered. They advanced through winding tunnels until the corridor widened into an observation deck. Through a transparent wall, they saw the pulse core chamber below, a massive sphere suspended over an energy well, humming with restrained fury. Dozens of Dominion engineers worked around it, their movements synchronized like a hive. Tarek's jaw tightened. There it is, the machine that kills feelings. Reyna crouched, studying the layout. Security patterns repeat every 8 minutes. We move when the shift changes. You disable external feed. I plant the charge. He nodded, determination cutting to the fear in his voice. Got it. 8 minutes later, they slipped down the service ladder into the chamber's lower level. The air vibrated with power. The core pulsed, casting ghostly light across their suits. Tarek knelt by a console, hands flying over controls. Feed offline in 30 seconds. Reyna moved toward the central platform, pulling the compact explosive from her pack. She attached it to the generator's stabilizer, setting the timer for remote detonation. Everything was smooth, until a voice echoed from above. "Humans." They froze. From the upper deck descended High Executive Vorek Ska, tall and armored in liquid metal, eyes glowing with cold amber light. His voice was calm, yet it carried weight like thunder. "I expected scavengers, not ghosts from a dead race." Reyna raised her weapon. "And yet here we are." Vorek stepped closer, studying her through the haze of energy. "You don't belong here." The war ended. Your kind refused peace, and look what it cost you, your home, your future, your reason. Reyna's tone was steady. You call it peace. We call it extinction. Peace is balance, he replied. You humans bring imbalance. You act on impulse. You destroy harmony. She smirked. Harmony's overrated. A perfect song gets boring. We prefer noise. The executor's gaze hardened. This defiance, it's your curse. You can't stop fighting, even when there's nothing left to fight for. Tart cut in from behind. We fight because we care. You wouldn't get it. You programmed a feeling out of yourselves. Vorax tilted his head. Emotion is chaos. It makes you unpredictable. Exactly, Reyna said. And that's why you'll never win. Vorax moved faster than thought, slamming his arm into her chest. She hit the railing, breath leaving her in a painful grunt. Her weapon clattered to the floor. Tarek fired, striking Vorax's shoulder. The alien barely flinched. He turned and backhanded Tarek across the face, sending him crashing into the console. Sparks erupted. Reyna rolled to her knees, pulled a blade from her boot, and slashed at the joint of Vorax's armor. The blade bit in, sparks flying. He hissed, shoving her away with brutal force. You think pain give you power, he said. It only proves your weakness. Reyna spat blood and rose, staggering but unbroken. Funny, weakness is what makes us human. We bleed, we break, and then we stand again. The words hit him like a pulse of static, something ancient stirring behind his mechanical calm. Tarek coughed, crawling back to the console. Reyna, the charge. I've got it, she said. She dove for the detonator on the floor, rolled beneath Vorax's swing, and aimed the device at the stabilizer. End of the line. Vorax lunged, but she hit the trigger first. The core erupted in a flash of blue fire. Energy cascaded to the chamber, throwing bodies and machines into the air. Reyna slammed against the wall, her vision fracturing into white noise. Tarek, she shouted. I'm good. His voice came through the comm, strained but alive. We need to move now. Vorax emerged from the smoke, half his armor melted, eyes burning brighter. You can't destroy it, he snarled. You've only delayed what's inevitable. Reyna fired 3 rounds into his chest. Then I'll keep delaying. The shots barely slowed him, but she didn't care. She grabbed Tarek's arm and ran. The corridor behind them collapsed as the shock wave consumed the chamber. They reached the docking shaft, lungs burning. Juno's voice filled their helmets. Commander, I detect massive energy fluctuations. Are you alive? Alive enough? Reyna gasped. Guess out. Understood. The Valkyries then disengaged from the port as the citadel below exploded. Towers shattered. Light arced into the sky, and the Dominion's perfect order cracked for the first time in centuries. On the bridge, Reyna collapsed into her chair, chest heaving. Tarek slumped beside her, face smeared with blood and soot. The Valkyries then drifted through the void, its engines muted to whispers. Dominion Prime had been left burning behind them, but the victory was hollow. The neural pulse core had survived, and so had the Dominion's will to rule. In the observation deck, Reyna stood before the panoramic glass, watching the debris field shimmer under the distant sun. She had seen worlds die before, but something about this one lingered, a weight that pressed against her ribs like regret. Tarek entered quietly, nursing a bruised jaw. You've been standing there for hours, planning your next suicide run. Thinking, Reyna said without turning. Same thing in your case. He leaned against the wall, arms crossed. We blew their citadel, crippled their network. That's a win in my book. Reyna exhaled slowly. It's a delay, not a win. Juno confirmed the pulse signal's still active. They're rerouting control through their satellite ring. Once it stabilizes, they'll be stronger than before. Tarek frowned. So what's the plan? Hit the satellites? There are hundreds. Not all are operational, said a calm voice from the console. Juno's holographic form flickered to life, a translucent figure with sharp eyes and an unshakable serenity. But one controls the rest. The apex node, located in the ruins of Terra Station. Reyna's head snapped up. Terra Station? That's impossible. It was destroyed during the Exodus War. Not entirely, Juno replied. The Dominion rebuilt parts of it. It's a relay hub now, a tomb-turned-throne. Tarek's tone darkened. Terra Station was human. You were born there, weren't you? Reyna's eyes drifted back to the stars. Yeah, before they turned it into a graveyard. A long silence followed. The hum of the ship filled it, low and constant. Finally, Tarek said, Then we go back. Finish what they started. The journey took 12 hours through the outer belts. The wreckage of forgotten ships surrounded them, rusted hulls of human vessels, drifting like ghosts. As they approached the coordinates, Terra Station came into view. It was enormous, half in ruin, half reborn. One side still bore the scars of orbital bombardment. The other gleamed with Dominion alloy and radiant conduits. It looked like two histories welded into one, both unwilling to die. Juno's tone was measured, approach vectors locked. No active patrols detected, but the node shield grid is running at full capacity. Reyna strapped on her gear. We'll need to go dark. No comms, no beacons. Tarek smirked. So just the old-fashioned way? Sneak in, blow it up, and hope we don't die? She looked at him. Exactly. The shuttle detached silently from the Valkyrie's end and slipped toward the derelict docking bay. Inside, gravity was weak. Dust drifted like snow in the stale air. The corridors were lined with faded human markings. Terra Command, Research Wing, Dock 7B, half buried under Dominion sigils. Reyna's chest tightened as they moved deeper. This place used to smell like coffee and burnt circuits, she murmured. Now it smells like nothing. Tarek's voice was quiet. I never thought I'd see it. The cradle of humanity, turned into a machine. They passed through a shattered atrium where vines of cable hung from the ceiling like dead veins. A cracked mural still clung to one wall. United Earth, together toward tomorrow. Reyna paused beneath it, fingers brushing the chip paint. I was 6 when I left here, she said. They told us we'd rebuild somewhere safe, but there was no safe left. Tarek didn't answer. He didn't need to. The silence said enough. Juno's voice came through their internal comms. You're approaching the node chamber. Energy readings are off the scale. Proceed with caution. The door ahead hissed open. Inside, the apex node glowed like a living heart. Massive cables pulsed with light, feeding into a crystalline sphere that hovered above the floor. It hummed with a resonance that crawled into the bones. Beautiful, Tarek whispered, in a terrifying way. Reyna approached the control dais, scanning the display. The core is linked to every surviving Dominion relay. If we fry it, the whole network collapses. Then let's fry it. Before she could answer, a faint hum filled the air, an activation tone, low but rising. The sphere brightened, and a voice echoed around them, cold and precise. Unauthorized presence detected. Reyna froze. She knew that voice. Vorex Ska materialized in a holographic light, his body half metal, half scarred flesh from their last encounter. His eyes burned like twin embers. You survived, he said. Reyna's grip tightened on her weapon. You talk too much for someone who should be dead. I was forged in purpose, Vorex replied. Death avoids purpose. Tarek raised his rifle. Step aside, or I'll test that theory. The executor's gaze flicked to him. Your kind always threatens before it understands. He lifted a hand, and a surge of energy burst across the floor. Tarek was thrown backward, armor sparking. Enough! Reyna shouted, firing 3 shots. They passed through Vorex's form. It was only a projection. Vorex's tone darkened. I am no longer bound to one shell. I am the node. Destroy it, and you destroy me. But in doing so, you'll destroy every surviving human refuge connected to its grid. Their systems depend on its signal. Reyna hesitated. You're lying. Am I? He said softly. You think chaos brings freedom, but even chaos needs connection. You can end me, Commander, but you will end them too. Tarek groaned, pulling himself upright. Reyna, what do we do? She stared at the pulsing core. Her mind raced. Images of burnt colonies, dying children, a galaxy held hostage by order. The thought of losing the few remaining survivors tore at her, but leaving the Dominion's heart intact was worse. "You forced us into your system," she said. "But you forgot one thing. Humans adapt." Vorex's form flickered. "Adaptation without logic is suicide." "Maybe," she said, stepping toward the control panel. "But it's also evolution." She pulled a data spike from her belt and drove it into the terminal. Juno's voice came alive in her calm. "Commander, I can isolate the Dominion signal, reroute the human systems before detonation. But I'll need time." "How much?" 3 minutes. Vorex's voice thundered through the chamber. "You will not." Energy surged from the sphere, striking console. Sparks exploded. Reyna threw herself sideways, shielding her face. The node began to pulse faster, unstable. "Juno, now!" "I'm trying. Dominion firewalls are countering." Reyna slammed her fist onto control pad. "Override with my biometric key. Use everything." Static roared in her ear. Then silence. Juno's voice returned, calm and final. "Signal rerouted. You can detonate safely." Reyna met Vorex's burning gaze. "End the order." She pressed the trigger. The node imploded in a blinding burst of blue-white light. The shockwave rolled through the chamber, bending metal and silence into one final scream. Reyna was thrown back, vision fading to black. When she opened her eyes, she was aboard the Valkyrie's end. The medbay lights glowed dimly. Tarek sat beside her bed, half asleep, his arm bandaged. The Valkyrie's end floated in the quiet between stars. The war was over, or so the galaxy whispered, but peace had not yet learned how to breathe. The Dominion's collapse had fractured systems and alliances alike. Whole sectors had gone dark. Freedom, as it turned out, came with a price tag written in ashes. Reyna walked the empty corridor, her boots echoing faintly. Every step reminded her that half her crew was gone, buried in the fire they'd unleashed on Terra Station. The ship felt heavier now, like it carried the ghost of every scream that had echoed through its hull. She entered the command deck. Holographic stars shimmered in a quiet dance above the table. Tarek stood by the viewport, staring at the same horizon she'd been chasing her whole life. "You're up early," he said without turning. "Didn't sleep," she replied. "Still thinking about what comes next?" Reyna leaned against the console. "We broke the Dominion's grip, but we didn't rebuild anything. We just stopped the bleeding." Tarek turned to face her. The exhaustion in his eyes mirrored her own. "We did what no one else could. The rest is someone else's job." She smiled faintly. "You really believe that?" "No, but I'd like to." For a moment, silence filled the space between them, the kind that comes only after too much loss. Then the ship's AI, Juno, flickered to life in a shimmer of pale blue. "Commander," she said softly, "you should see this." A star map expanded across the table. Several systems blinked red, scattered colonies, old human outposts once dependent on Dominion networks. Now, their signals were faint distress calls. Reyna's heart tightened. How many? 43 confirmed, dozens unverified. Communications are collapsing without the central grid. Some colonies are rationing oxygen and food. Others aren't responding at all. Tarek ran a hand through his hair. So much for freedom. Reyna stared at the map, each red blink a reminder what they'd risked everything for. "There are people," she said. "We can't just leave them." Juno's tone was gentle. "Our resources are limited. The Valkyries and cannot sustain large-scale rescue operations alone." Reyna's mind turned fast. "We won't do it alone. There are still fleets, independents, mercenaries, miners with ships. We'll gather whoever's left." Tarek smirked. "You're serious, aren't you? A broken warship, leading a relief fleet across half the galaxy." She met his gaze. "Humans don't wait for permission to fix what's broken." They began with small signals. Reyna sent encrypted broadcasts to every human frequency she could find. Most went unanswered. But within days, ships started to appear. Rusted freighters, battered cruisers, and even a few alien craft piloted by those who owed humans their freedom. By the time the fleet formed near the shattered moon of Ordanes, it looked like a scrapyard come alive. Tarek stood on the deck, watching ships drift into formation. That's something. Looks like a bunch of flying coffins. Reyna allowed herself a thin smile. Then we'll make them fly like angels. She opened a transmission to the gathered captains. Faces flickered across the screen. Some scarred, some weary, all human. This is Commander Reyna Vale of the Valkyrie's End, she began. We ended a war, but we didn't save our people yet. Out there, colonies are starving, die in the dark. We have a choice. Stand down and let history bury us, or rise again, not as soldiers, but as guardians of the living. No applause followed, only silence, the kind that meant they were listening. Then one captain, a grizzled miner with a cybernetic arm, nodded. Say the word, Commander. My crew's with you. More voices followed. One by one, systems came online, engines roared, and a fleet of survivors turned into a force of purpose. Their first mission was to reach the outpost of Venera 9, a research colony cut off for weeks. The approach was treacherous, debris fields, pirate raiders, and the lingering wreckage of Dominion patrols. 2 hours to entry, Juno reported. Tarek glanced at Reyna. You really think anyone's still alive down there? We'll find out, she said quietly. As the fleet descended, static filled the comms. The planet's surface glimmered with storm fronts and fractured city domes. The outpost had once been a thriving hub for atmospheric research. Now it was a skeleton of metal and frost. They landed amid silence. The wind howled through shattered towers. Inside the main compound, frost clung to the walls, and lights flickered dimly. A faint noise echoed down the hall, a voice, fragile but real. Reyna drew her pistol and moved toward it. A door hissed open. Inside, a group of survivors huddled near a dying generator. Their eyes widened at the sight of her uniform. You're human, a woman whispered. Reyna nodded. So are you. Tears welled in the woman's eyes. We thought everyone was gone. Reyna knelt beside her. Not yet. We're here to take you home. One of the survivors, a young man with shaking hands, looked at her. There is no home. The Dominion burned it all. Reyna met his gaze. Then we'll build a new one. We've done it before. Hours later, the survivors were aboard the fleet. Supplies were distributed, and makeshift medical stations buzzed with life. It wasn't victory, but it was something better. Hope taking its first breath. Tarek watched Reyna from across the bay as she spoke with the rescued colonists. When she finally joined him, he said, You really believe we can fix it, don't you? I don't believe, she said. I know. Humanity doesn't stay broken. We just rebuild with sharper edges. He chuckled softly. And what about you, Commander? When you stop fighting? She looked at the stars through the viewport, their cold light scattering across her reflection. When there's nothing left worth saving. And that day hasn't come yet. Weeks passed. The fleet moved from world to world, restoring signals, delivering supplies, rebuilding trust. News spread like wildfire across the systems, of humans helping humans, of the Valkyrie's End, and the commander who refused to stand down. One night, as the ship drifted near the nebula ray, Juno spoke quietly through the intercom. Commander, I have detected a transmission from the outer sectors. A Dominion distress signal. Reyna frowned. You're sure? Yes. It originates from a damaged dreadnought. Minimal life signs detected. Tarek's expression darkened. Could be a trap? Or a chance, Reyna said. Plot a course. When they reached the source, the wreck was barely holding together. Inside, they found a handful of Dominion soldiers, injured, starving, terrified. One of them looked up as Reyna approached. You should have left us, he rasped. Reyna knelt beside him, offering water. That's not what humans do. The soldier stared at her, confusion and disbelief mixing in his alien eyes. You destroyed our order. Why save us? Because if we only live by destruction, she said softly, then we become the thing we fought. He said nothing more, only watched as her crew tended to his wounded. For the first time, the line between enemy and ally blurred into something simple, life, fragile and shared.